And welcome to One Stop Co-op Shop. This is Steve here with Derek and Bairnt.
Hello.
We're here for a co-op chat. We are back, baby. I'm back.
Steve's back, yay!
Yeah, so I see a lot of people in chat. So Matthew, Marcel, Successful Geek, Stacy, G Golly,
Crazy.
Martin. Wow, lots of guys here. G Golly, Jan's here.
Matthew.
So thanks guys for showing up.
Yeah,
And yes,
Matthew.
Bairnt is eating his breakfast. So
Oh man, man,
Aw.
I went to McDonald's at 7:30 thinking, oh, I got plenty of time to make this happen. They made me sit there. Oh, you know, they can sometimes go, oh, your fries aren't ready. Please pull up. Yeah, no, they're like, apparently orange juice wasn't ready. How's your orange juice not ready? Pull up. 25 minutes later, I got my food. Everything's cold except for at least my orange juice is cold, but
Your
boom.
juice was warm, I'd be afraid. I'd be very afraid.
no worries. No worries. We're here. We're here to talk about this is our co-op chat. This is our live discussion. We try to do this weekly, but with my computer being out, it's been difficult and Derek's taken over, so it was awesome for him to help out with that. But we try to cover
I barely held it together. I barely held it together.
Oh, you are what we call fantastic.
So yeah, this is our try to do it weekly. Live chat, talk about different board game topics with a cooperative focus. And so if you guys have any suggestions or recommendations you want us to talk about things, feel free to drop in the comments below, or on if you're here live chat too, and we'll try to add it for the next chat.
Yes.
But let's talk about what we're talking about today. If you saw the thumbnail of the title, it says "Don't ask me to play board games." Now, I'm gonna put this out there right now. Not actually true for me, and I'm guessing the same for you guys as well.
What? I don't want to play board games. What?
It depends who it is. It depends on who I'm playing with.
No, it's this was an interesting article.
Yeah.
Overall.
So we respond to this article of the Atlantic we have on the side here. So we'll talk. We should probably summarize this. Do you want to summarize it, Derek?
Nope, let's just talk about it without even any referencing any part of it.
Sure,
Yeah.
no context. No context.
No
It'll just
context.
confuse everybody. Well, let me tell you about that now.
Okay, please.
Yeah. So the Atlantic, which is a editorial, I'll just call it that, an editorial company. They release some articles. Some of them they're clickbaitish, but they're not as clickbaitish as other articles that are out there. Anyway, I saw this one and I checked it out. Then I immediately said, "Hey Barrett, hey Steve, check this out. Read on it." And basically, what it is this reporter Gloria Liu. She wrote this article entitled "It Please Don't Ask Me to Play Your Board Game." And so when I saw that, I was like, "Oh, well, maybe that's for dev creators, and dev creators are talking about how, or dev creators are saying how other people are coming to them saying, 'Here's my game' and whatnot." But what she's actually talking about is she is not a board gamer, and so she feels that that she won't be able to make social bonds or or be able to connect with anybody because now the board game, because of COVID and the surge of board games making way more money than they did prior to COVID, that everyone's moving towards board gaming. And so if she doesn't partake in these things, she won't she won't be accepted. She won't be accepted into the group. She won't be part of the group, or she'll feels like she has to do it or else she won't feel social. And that's how it starts.
Assimilated is the word you're looking
Yeah, thank you.
Simulate, right?
but she
resistance is futile.
That's right.
yeah, but she goes on to explain why and what goes into it, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about here today, right? I read through the article a couple times, and there's some misconceptions that she has only because the one thing that was not in this article was her talking to somebody who actually played board games. It was, well, I talked to my sister who hates it. I talked to my brother who hates it. It's she didn't talk to somebody who actually liked board gaming, and she made a lot of assumptions on what board gaming is, and the community that's around it, that's actually a lot more forgiving and accepting than what she gave them credit for. So it they showed that, and then they talked about something else. She tried to be dialectic, and she tried to show two sides, but she didn't.
Yeah.
Right? She showed anyway. I could get into the whole thing about this article, and I know I want Stephen Bairnt to kind of talk about it.
So
So I'll pause there.
Jan has a comment here. It says, "Is it any different from teenagers thinking they have to partake in sports or night events, etc.?" I think it's in a similar vein, honestly. Yes, Jan. That's a pretty good analogy.
It is.
I had to read the article. I didn't do that.
Here's my surprise face, Baird. Here's my surprise face. Hold on. Ready?
Oh, Baron, you're awesome.
I'm glad you summed it up pretty well. That's pretty good. No, I kind of skimmed it. How about that? Is that
which is fine.
Okay,
fine.
good. Which means I read like the first paragraph.
So a couple things. Like a few things I'm like, well, I'm very pro and con and mixed around this article for a couple different things. So I will get into the details of this one right now, I think. So one thing that kind of bothered me, and it might just been her writing style, but I'm hoping I kind of get the impression it's just the attitude and the impression, but a lot of times it's like the night's gonna start off poorly, and when you go into an event thinking this is gonna be a bad experience, you're not setting yourself up to even have a chance of enjoying it, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if she's writing that just because I want to have this slant in the game, or if that's how they really are, but whatever it is, I think that's very important to come in and just try to have a positive outlook, regardless of what it is. Because there's a lot of things I do that I just don't want to do. We all have to do, right? Especially with kids. How many times does a kid want to do something you're like, I really don't do this right now, but okay, sure, let's do it, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You do it for them. You do it to have that experience with them, which is totally worth it. So
yeah.
But my kids are probably watching.
Be honest, Barrett. They appreciate your honesty. So the article itself, it starts with like her saying that she moved to a small town in Pennsylvania, which is fine.
Yeah.
And to become part of the group and to be socially accepted, she said that she was invited to a game night. And so right there, that in itself is some problems. Okay. That's some psychological stuff where it's like, well, when you move to a town, you don't know anybody, you're new in town, and you want to reach out and make bonds. If those bonds center around, if the group is saying, hey, we're gonna go play board games, but you don't want to, don't go.
Yeah.
There are guess what? People who play board games have other interests. So there might be another interest that you take that you can find and bond on instead of something you don't like doing. But
like role-playing games and painting.
But Steve had a good point too. It's that as soon she immediately said that she doesn't like this, she's not going to enjoy herself, so she set herself up for failure.
Right.
And so when she got there, she was there with the attitude of, this is going to be awful, this is not going to be fun. And then immediately she says, someone starts explaining sort of rules, something to like Gloomhaven and Codenames, two massively different games for newcomers.
They are? I mean, I always hear Gloomhaven compared to every other game out there. So I assume it's all the same, right?
Marvel United's the only thing that's the same, right?
I have to say, when it came to Gloomhaven, that's the first game I have ever, normally when somebody comes over to play games, I have no problem explaining games. Gloomhaven was the first game where my two friends that were coming over, like, hey, want to try out that Gloomhaven game? Like, okay, here is a video you have to watch, which is like a step-by-step explanation of how the game works. So, otherwise, we're going to be spending 45 minutes with me explaining kind of how this is all going to work out.
Yeah. And there are different barriers to entry. I assume that everyone who is in the community has had someone who knows someone or has been in contact with someone who's never played a board game before or haven't ventured into the industry, and they know how to help us. They're not going to say, hey, let's sit down and play Dark Souls or Kingdom Death Monster, right? And they're like, all right, well, let's play some Azul. Let's play Forgotten Island. Let's play something where the learning curve is like 2 minutes.
Would it surprise you that I introduced my friend, his wife, and my wife to one of their first co-op board games? It was called Myth. I explained that to them when they played it. That was the first like big co-op experience they had.
How was it? How was
It actually
it?
turned out really well. We played for like the next 6 weeks.
Wow.
Really? That's cool. That's
Yeah.
cool.
It was really.
What-
We actually had a good time, believe it or not.
So what would have happened in that setting? And this goes back to the article, so I want to get your take on this, Bairnt. What would have happened in that setting? She wrote in this article. She said that that after the let's see, the evening was grim, was what she started with. She said an alarming complex game was first explained. I know which game she's talking about, but I'll just say something about a ghost or a haunting, and then repeated upon my request. So she then said, someone will say you'll get it after a couple rounds, and then she bumbled through it. So if you see your friends and you're teaching them, and you see this happening where you're having to re-explain rules, or that they're having a hard time making decisions, would you still keep trucking with the game?
Well, it depends because I have had games explode in my face.
Mm.
The same group, because after Myth we played Arcadia Quest, and then we played some other bigger like then I brought out like Arkham Horror LCG, which is a completely like different than any dungeon crawler, right? And so here I am going like, okay, so here's how the cards are gonna work. You're gonna be paying for them. They both went, don't worry about it, we got this. We'll just learn as we play. I'm like, that's not really learn as you play game. But okay, we'll give it a shot. And that game just exploded on the table because they're like, well, I don't know what to do about these things. What's in your hand? And so I'm like, okay, well, you have to play that spell so that you can use your dexterity to be able to like, so they didn't understand what any of the cards were, which then that game doesn't come out on the table very often anymore.
Yeah. And usually for me, if I'm explaining a game, no matter the complexity, and I see the group kind of melting away, or I see one person being like, I just don't get it, my first instinct is to be like, okay, well, let's play something else.
Yeah.
Let's get something. Let's put this away.
Yeah.
And let's break out. And then my brain goes through its index of lesser complex games and say, let's pull this out and let's try this one out and see how that goes. Like I wouldn't want to keep going.
Well, it's
But-
not just that too. If they're just not enjoying the experience for whatever reason, I mean, even with Derek and I, we sat down and play a game, and I'll leave the game unnamed at this point, but we were playing it, and I think he knows what I'm talking about.
Yes,
And we're
I
like
do.
halfway through, and I'm like, we're good. We can put this away and move on to something different. So,
Well, but I also had to be open enough,
Right.
and to tell Steve, I'm like, I'm not enjoying this.
yeah.
And so once I told him that, he immediately was like, okay, well, let's just play something else. It
And
wasn't, "Well,
when
stick
Derek
with it."
tells me that means he doesn't like any board games. That's what that means.
Or that entire theme. He hates everything with that
That's
theme on
right.
it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
only
I
stealth
do like
games. That's
that.
only
Okay.
stealth games.
He hates stealth games with card play, and he doesn't like games that have deck building. Like,
Right.
revolve
Hey,
around
you're
a
trying to
circle.
you're trying to get me lynched on this stream.
Where it's kind of funny. I am just the opposite. For some reason, I enjoy every game, and I think it's not because I enjoy every game. I just enjoy playing games with other people. So it doesn't matter what the game is. You could put the driest Euro on the table, and I would have a blast as long as I'm with a bunch of other people and we're all playing the game. We know what we're doing. That's just who I am. I just love it.
Yeah.
There is, of
Yeah.
course, like you said, that period where you have to learn the rules. And I have gotten to a point where sometimes if something's not fully understood, and I've had to do this because I just understand how sad of an experience this is when somebody goes like, okay, I'm going to move over here and I'm going to play this card and I'm going to do this and roll the dice. And I'm like, and you look at it and go, that just broke 3 rules. He broke 3 rules doing what he just did. But sadly, I know he's been building up for 2 turns to do something cool like that. So then I usually let it go. And then I come back and go, all right, I'm going to let you do this because this is going to be really cool. But in the future, that word right there doesn't let this do that with this. Oh, okay, now I get it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
I do the same
also,
thing.
if you start being a real rule stickler, it can also turn a game off to people sometimes.
Absolutely.
What was that thing you pulled up just now?
Kim's had a comment. It says, definitely need to read the room. If it isn't working for the newcomer, it would cement a bad experience, and then boom, they hate all board games, right?
Yeah.
And it makes a big difference, like trying to figure out, because people will have different approaches, and that's one thing that I think is very important for people in the board game hobby to realize, because there's sometimes this sense of elitism that comes off, and honestly, it may not be intentional. To be fair, with a lot of things,
Say
like,
more
oh,
about that.
I like
Say
these
more
really
about
heavy games because a lot of moving pieces going around and stuff like that. But maybe that's not a style that other people like, and you don't want to have this, well, I don't want to play these light games because I like these other stuff. It could come off kind of wrong sometimes,
Right.
unintentionally.
Mhm.
But the big thing is trying to understand where people are coming from as well, because Elijah, one of the local buddies here I play games with, like I'll go over to his place to play a board game or play games, and I'll be gone for like 3-4 hours. We will play one game that maybe takes an hour to play. What are we doing the rest of the time? We are chatting, having a little snack or something like that. We're just hanging out and we're socializing, and that is a really fun environment to be in. And I feel like sometimes around when thinking about board games, it's always about the game, but really for me, it's about the people and making sure that
The social
the
aspect.
social aspect, exactly. And if you're bringing a newcomer in and you're just like, hey, come over, we're just gonna play this game right now without setting up that social environment, because that is the real reason there. The board game itself is a conduit for a shared experience.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Successful Geek was gonna hit on my next angle because I'm talking one side, and then after I finish that, I'm gonna switch to the other side of
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
When we get together for games with my friends, we usually spend like a good half hour, 45 minutes to an hour, just like hanging out, enjoying each other's company, because we know once we kind of get to the game, we do play those rule heavier games.
Hmm?
So we have to focus more on the games. We do usually get, then we do get to focus on each
Yeah,
other. So we usually have like this half hour to an hour of enjoy a beer and hang out and chit chat for a while, see how people's day are, and like have a good little conversation, everything. Then we kind of jump into the game after we do that. Now, sadly, just the opposite with, what the heck was that? Oh, was just the opposite. Is sadly when Colin does the live plays with me, we start at 8:30 in theory, and he's like jumping into my house at like 8:20, and he's like running down the stairs, and I'm like, oh, today pretty good, okay, go bog. So then that series, it's just the opposite, but at least we know each other well enough that we understand, like, okay, we'll be able to chit chat sometime. I know this, but like right now we're in game mode. Let's go. All these people are there. We got to get playing. Let's go. This is gonna be awesome. And we have an absolute blast playing and stuff. But it's two completely different like worlds when it comes to the
yeah.
two people I play board games with, which is kind of funny. Now you can go to your next topic, and I need to turn like the sound off of everything here.
Yeah, and well, no, you're fine. But Successful Geek had a one that he posted up there, and I think this hits on kind of where I'm going next with the next part of the article, where she talked about, well, she enjoyed cycling and doing all these different things instead of board gaming. And so this is where it gets interesting for me. It gets interesting for me because as a sporty prior to I mean, I still love sports, but I played sports, I did all that, I didn't play any board games. I saw how people who didn't play board games or RPGs or TTRPGs or card games or whatever treated people who did. And I think that this makes it's okay
Mm.
that both can be true, right? But this to me is like, have you when did you how old are you? Right? And so I asked that because when I grew up, board games to me that I knew before getting into the hobby was Monopoly and Yahtzee and Life and
Right.
what's the one where I always forget the name of the game. The one where you slide down the board, bump
Snakes
somebody
and
back.
ladders or shoots and
No,
ladders.
Mastermind.
it's not
No,
Mastermind. It's
no, I know what you're talking about. You slide down the thing and you
it's
shoot,
like
you
you're
knock
moving
people
around
up.
the board and then you hit a point and you slide, and if anybody's at the end, you bump them
They're
and
like
they have to go
sorry or
back. Yes,
something.
that's it. Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
So,
we
but
don't play
those
those games.
were,
There's too
but
much.
but that was board
I
gaming to me
Yeah.
before I got into the hobby, and so those didn't gel really well for me, so I focused on other things. But I saw like my friends who would go to the library and who would play board games and who would play card games and who would play D&D and stuff like that. You would see jocks being jerks to them for doing it, right? They would be like, they made a whole movie called Revenge of the Nerds about it. So a whole series of movies where you watch these people kind of be very cruel to people who like this stuff in the hobby. And now all of a sudden, it's like, okay, well, we're still doing our thing. We're still building our base. We're still having our community. You are more than welcome to come join it. But just because you didn't enjoy it, we are ostracizing you. are you out of your freaking mind?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's where like I had a response. I had a response to this article because it's like, so when we played board games, you made fun of us. When we took it in stride, and when we invite you to our board game, and the community says, "Come in, play a game, join us, have a good time, play whatever you like," you know, and you don't have a good time because you set yourself up for failure, we are ostracizing you. Thank you for making it all about you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly.
So and that is what ticked me off about the article because it's like, are you kidding me? You
Well,
know,
and I'll add to that too, where she's talking about, oh yeah, we're teaching this game and they're explaining the rules, and I am struggling. I'm not really. It almost sounds like honestly they're not paying attention. Honestly, that's kind of how I read between the lines on that, and it gets to the turns like I don't know what I'm doing. And it could be because they learn differently, which is fine, right? Everyone has different ways of learning. Like I love reading rule books, and I feel like I can learn from rule books, but not everyone's like that, right?
yeah.
Some people like to have the video playthroughs, and they've seen that. In other ways, right? And that's totally fine, and to have people understanding how people learn different ways. But it was more of the fact that I felt like they weren't even trying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's
And
where
then
what bothers. Like, because I generally feel like board gamers want other people to learn how to play the game, because without other players, what's the point, right? Well, I mean, you can play solo games, of course, but like generally board games, you want other people to share your experience, right? That's the whole
yeah,
point of playing a game, in my opinion.
yeah, yeah. And I think that that's the thing that it's set around for sure. And that that she the other failing in this article is that she went to an echo chamber
Right.
to voice her concerns. She
Right.
went to Victoria. I called Victoria my sister to see if I could blame my parents for this. Why? I know you're trying to be lighthearted, but that's dumb. I talked to my friend Whitney who hates games as well, and so it's like so to understand what the failing was for you, you went to an echo chamber
Right.
instead of saying, "Hey, board game person who invited me, I didn't really have a good time. I don't know, the rules were a little hard." Or having that courage, or I don't know, the courage to be able to say, "I didn't find this. This didn't sit well for me. What is it? Just I don't like games? Is it?" And then they can have a dialogue around this stuff. If you go to an echo chamber, all you're going to get is, "Yep, yep, that's what I agree. Yep, yep, I think the same thing," which builds nothing.
Well, it could be that, I mean, I don't know this person or anything like this, but it could be that, I mean, I'm sure there are people out there that sometimes are just going to sit by, let the wave go over them, and then leave with this, with how she's feeling, because uh, she doesn't want to be the one that's kind of holding back what's going on, not one that's been, but I mean, in her defense, you need to ask the questions, but there are people out there, I know this, that are like, go through the motions and in anything, and not, and but since 10 other people have already been doing this for years and years and years, and you're the newcomer coming in, you don't want to feel like, I don't want to be the person that's rocking the boat here. I don't want I don't want to be the person
But
asking all
whose
the
fault
questions.
is that?
I'm
Whose
not saying
fault
it's
is
the
that?
right way to do things.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that there are people out there that are like that it's hard for them to step up and be able to ask these questions a lot and get the answers they
Yeah.
need. Now, like you're saying, at the end, it probably would have been a better time to step in and say, hey, if you've already gone through this whole process and it wasn't exciting and it wasn't fun and you're going to leave on a bad taste in your mouth, you could have, like, maybe the person wasn't very good at explaining rules. I mean, that could very well be.
Mhm.
We don't know. So if this
But that's the
person,
problem. That's the problem with the article, is that you don't know. So
Right.
therefore, there incites this set of speculation because all you know is what someone wrote, and all they wrote was one side of a two-sided story, right? So because you don't know, you're like, you come up with these questions, and as human beings, our brains fill in blanks. That's just who we are. So you come up with this, and you say, okay, well, did she do this? Why didn't she do this? This article could have been better served doing this. So you're not trying to slam her.
no.
You're just basically saying this doesn't seem thought out.
So Stacy is the next point I was going to bring up. I mentioned this already, which is a great comment here. The thing
Mhm.
is that cyclists get attacked too. At least in my state, I've been yelled at, thrown food at, been sideswiped. Can't believe that she hasn't experienced some of these things in her cycling. So like these, because one thing she called out was in this group environment when playing a game, they felt like they were performing in front of a group, right? People were judging their performance. But like when you're cycling with other people, it's really the same situation, but it's all in your mind, right? I
Mhm.
didn't get the impression that she felt like she was performing in front of a group when she's cycling with her friends. So why is that
Right.
different with a board game? And
Yeah.
it's an interesting comment, and I'm wondering is because board games generally are competitive in nature, and maybe that competition drives some of that feeling. But honestly, she mentioned Gloomhaven and Codenames. Codenames could be the cooperative version of Codenames. Gloomhaven is definitely cooperative.
Massive, massive co-op in both. Yeah.
Exactly. And so like you're not competing against people, and so would those feelings still persist the same way? I don't know.
Yeah.
And if it does, I honestly it kind of keeps pointing back to the same situation where I feel like it comes down to the mindset, really. You
Yeah.
going into
And the
here,
game that
you have this mindset that cycling is something you really enjoy, and it is, well, we'll get this productive comment here in a little bit. And board games aren't productive. So um but it is really the same situation when the group environments when I'm getting down to it. So
yeah, yeah. And I think that the game that she was talking about was Betrayal at House on the Hill, right? I mean, everybody knows that there's a
oh
ghost,
yeah,
there's
yeah, yeah,
betrayal, there's a haunting, all that other stuff. So I I think that if she's feeling like that's not her game, my next question, because the article's not complete, the next question is, well, did you go back and try something else? Did you
yeah,
did you so I have just a beef of questions, and they could have been answered if if she would have reached out to someone in the group
for sure.
who did hold the game night and say, hey, I'm writing this article about how I'm feeling and my experience with board gaming, and I just want to make sure that when I represent board gaming, I represent it in the most accurate way possible. So do you mind if I ask you some questions?
Right.
So she can still have how she feels. I mean, that I don't want to discount that. She could still say what she's thinking, but she can also, for the things that she doesn't know, it would be good to seek to understand before seeking to be understood.
Right. Yeah, and
Uh,
then the other comment, and Kim's mentioning here about board games being productive, is the other thing that kind of bothered me, actually a lot to be honest, because just it kind of set the framework of why am I playing board games? They are basically a waste of time. They're worthless because you don't get
yeah,
any. It doesn't produce
yeah,
anything. You're not
that
getting
was big.
stronger. You're not getting faster. Like I'm just sitting
Mhm.
here wasting time doing stuff. While if I go cycling, I'm building up the strength. I'm going places. I'm seeing new things, and I'm just like, oh, I drove. That was a, like so
Yeah,
oversighted. Like,
Steve was gonna go all Jesse the body
and
on her.
for what Steve's talking about, she said that when she talked to her sister said she can't escape the sense that games have little to do with anything that actually matters in the world.
yes, yes, that
That's
was one
what
of the
she said in
quotes.
the article, and that's
And
what he's responding to.
yeah, Kim mentions right here. When our son's been growing up, I introduced some board games to him for a while here, as he grew up at different stages. Right, I didn't throw him into something heavy. It's mostly a toy factory. Eventually, custom rules, and then eventually the actual rules. But it's been we can see a huge difference in him. Like he has stamina to sit down and focus
Mhm.
because he's grown up playing games.
Yeah,
And he's able to do a lot of simple math in his head pretty quickly. Is that because of board games? Maybe, maybe not. Could be from other factors, but
but it could be
most
part of it.
likely it had to
Yeah,
play in it, right?
yeah, yeah,
So like even at that like basic level, there's value in it, and it really comes down to board games flex your mental acuity, right? That is also something that needs to be maintained and leveraged through life, just like cycling and on a bike, right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and so Jan, I had another part that I was gonna
Yeah,
add to that, but
Stacy.
Jan posted something and I was like, let's talk about that. So Jan posted right above Stacy's one where it's like, are we as a community sensitive to this more because people tend to label us as geeks who stick together, who stick between themselves. So let's talk about that. So the thing about one of the things about articles and things that are written um by different editorials, let's call it like that, is that you get both sides of the story, right? The first side of the story that you get is here is what's going on, here's the research behind what's going on, and then if the editor has some or the writer has some thoughts, then they'll add those in as well. And so, but what you're getting is a whole story. The sensitivity around this is not that we're being, from my perspective, and I'll just talk about me, and then I'll let you two chip in how you're feeling. I don't want to speak for you, but there's no sensitivity around this. I think that's the thing that we're trying to get at. It's here's an article for someone who had a reaction to potentially, I don't know, potentially feeling like I don't fit in if I don't like board games. They are boring to me. And when I went to a game night, I had a bad experience. So therefore, and that, I talk to people who have the same mind as me, and one of them says that board games don't matter at all in the world, like to anything that's going on in the world. And what we're talking about here is we're talking about Steve saying that's not true. Uh, when I play games with my son, we noticed a difference that's going on with his development. There are games like Freedom: The Underground Railroad that talks about history. There are games like Women Vote for Women that talks about history.
Hmm.
There is a lot of games out there that reach from a historical standpoint that teaches things. And if we sit there and we say, well, it doesn't matter in the actual world, I don't think that they've done the proper work to be able to sit there and say uh it doesn't matter. That is a incorrect statement. And my sensitivity to that is when people make incorrect statements, I need to they need to be corrected. They need to be told this is wrong. What you're saying is not correct.
Yes.
And the reason only being, and I'll just touch on this and then I'll be quiet, is the reason only being is because I've been on the other end of an incorrect statement and it sucks. Okay. And I'm not talking about friends arguing, I'm talking about from a social safety standpoint.
Hmm.
So when people are wrong, I will tell them they are wrong and I will explain why and give data to why they are wrong. Okay, I'm done. I'm done with
No,
that.
I completely agree. I'm glad you brought up the historical one because when I read that comment in the article, my first mind went to games like Freedom and these historical games that actually set up situations and talk about what really happened. I granted that you could learn that from a book or something else too, but like that interactive level has transfers information as well, for sure. Also, another comment here from Kim says there's also the social aspect of where you learn about each other just by hanging out, right? I mean, that regardless of what the game is, that is always happening. And another thing I'll point out is the other value has I played board games with people I couldn't even communicate with. So I used to travel over to Germany quite often, and my colleague, he was actually from Germany, and sometimes I would go to his parents' place, and his parents obviously spoke German. I don't speak any German at all, really. But we were able to sit down at a table and have a shared experience playing a board game despite not being able to communicate. And it was really cool experience to get the feeling of like I get to know them even though I can't directly share verbally what we're doing. And like there's value in that already. So
Yeah, there's a lot of different things that you can get from board games or at least it adds on to, like, for example, my wife's a teacher, so there's a lot of educational implementations with board games. They're kind of like that. Instead of sitting there and having to read the book over and over to get the words and stuff, like you're reading cards, your reading skills are going up, being able to play certain board games. Like, of course, not every board game that is going to help this, but if you place the right games in the right situations, that is going to be a skill that's going to improve your life. I don't know. Last time I checked, reading's important. I wish I could do better at it. I'd probably be a better person. Who knows? But Also, like math skills, like Steve was saying. I mean, dice, just dice alone are simple math skills that are going to be able to help kids, and those help. Being able to bond over certain aspects of a game is important. My wife, I'm going to bring up Cora Quest. We got multiple copies of Cora Quest, and she took one to her school. Then at one point, she saw a group of 5 players playing Cora Quest. None of them associate with each other in school. They all have different ties, different friends, different things. But when they all sat down to play this game together, they were having a great time. They were laughing. They were enjoying each other's company. And I think that probably helped them is socially, even when they get back to their other circles, being able to like kind of integrate into other circles and being able to integrate the entire group together. That is the classroom. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
does.
so
It does.
there are like you're saying, you're not going to get anything out of this. Well, I mean, sure, I'm not going to bench press 430 pounds. Well, maybe after lifting some of the games I play.
Some games, maybe.
Have you not listened to Troll Chest?
I mean, that's just not the. I mean, so if you're coming from cycling, yeah, you're going to see a lot more physical differences coming from a hobby of that nature, where this one is more like you're saying of a social and maybe even reading skills and things. I mean, I really wish I was better at reading because I might get more of my rules right as I'm playing. That's just kind of the deal. I mean, or maybe I'll listen to Colin more often if he's like actually reading things to me. It would be nice. Listening skills, for example, is another one you could learn. All of these you think I would have learned playing this much board games, but I'm still learning these skills.
We'd miss so many quick stops from you. It's
I've actually, believe it or not, I was kind of going through some of the older videos. I just had to I mean, I'm sure everybody has like their couple months where it's like, oh my gosh, all this is happening. And I had like the last 2 months were like one of those, oh my gosh, all this is happening. Like I think we had the plague go through our house. And then we had like a lot of the end of the year stuff going on for like swimming events and things like this. So just all of a sudden, February and March were just ridiculous. It was absolutely bonkers busy in my house. So yeah. So yes, I haven't had the quips come to you for a while, Steve. I do have to go through my older videos.
But don't you worry.
Yeah, don't worry. We got some real good ones from Fire Team Zero coming. There was one where it took me 5 times to hit the right button when I only had 3 buttons to press.
That's right.
So halfway through the article, we started getting some information outside of how she felt, which is perfectly fine. You could say how you feel, whatnot. And so she said she talked to this person called Nikki, a co-founder of Quantic Foundry, name, shout out, whatever, that does market research for video games. And one thing that person told her was not that games are not only a social experience, but a social experiment. And Steve and Bairnt, both of you touched on this earlier. And what he meant by that is that you get to they said they tap into the old idea that to truly know a person, you have to pay attention to what they do instead of what they say. And when you play a board game, you see what they do. You see how they deal with loss, how they deal with winning. You see how they deal with decision making. You see how they deal with just turn by turn and strategizing on things. Like, you really do get to see how a person thinks when you watch them play a board game, and he's absolutely right in what he says. So it's more, someone could tell you a bunch of different things, and then you play some competitive game with them, and they lose, they get angry, or they shut down, or they get upset. So you're like, okay, well, that's that personality type. Or they win and they're like, good game, that was really fun, GG, let's play another one. And so you're like, okay, well, I see how this goes.
No, I'm kind of an in your face kind of guy. In your face! You down! I play co-op games. Yeah, no, I can get that. I don't know. I think I'm too chaotic for people. I think that's almost, you could always know when I come to the table, you're going to get chaos. That's usually what happens when I come to a table with games. So yeah. There's always I have a plan that never works. That's usually part of the deal. It's like I sometimes have these grandiose plans, and like the sad thing is 298 things have to happen to make this plan work. And then when one of them fails, I'm like, oh, I'm on plan L now. But you know what you're getting when you play a game with me then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you do know that like that's that one piece of the article, that 2 paragraphs was where I was like, okay, so we're diving into the research on this. And people have actually the one thing is like she says, here's someone who did research, but think about it. Someone has actually done research, marketing research, because marketing is evilly genius. but but they've done marketing research to say how do we best engage or meet with these people or talk to these people, and the marketing research shows that that it's a social experiment, that you if you want to see how somebody truly is, play a game with them, and you'll see how they truly are. And I just thought that was interesting.
Oh gosh, John's giving me a horror story right now, where someone spills a drink over your cards from the game, and how they react tells you what you think of them. One ignored and kept joking was invited to the next night.
I always posted in the chat. I said I'm gonna come over to somebody's house with my bag of Cheetos, my
No,
Cheetos fingers.
lock the doors.
It doesn't matter. You're allowed to come over, Canje. I've got 2 boys. It's Cheeto fingers every day. I mean, that's fingers around here all the time. What card sleeves are for, and that's why I've got thousands of them. So when I get Cheeto cards, I just re-sleeve the cards.
The other thing about this article, and I got into talking about more of the research thing, was the male and female difference in this article, because this one was talked about how talking about hobbies and how men have more time for hobbies than women, and I don't know. I just got a bad. I feel like that is like old school thinking, right? Like I thought we moved past that by now, but maybe it's still an issue.
I think that it's still an issue. I have to be very careful with this, especially
No,
when
go
I'm
for it.
dating
Just
someone who
pound it
does
in there, Canje. Just
no. I do not want this to be misunderstood whatsoever. No, I think that we need to realize that the inequality and struggle for women in across the board, across anything, is still in existence.
Yeah.
It's still in existence.
Yeah.
There's a lot of male privilege happening even today in society. So we need to recognize that. Okay? So let me say that first.
For sure.
When it comes to gaming, I would love to get the perspective of a female content creator, a female board gamer, those types of things. I do remember expressly one. I'll keep her name quiet because I'm sure she doesn't want to mention it. But I remember one who did say, like, whenever she would go to Magic, the story was whenever she would go to Magic tournaments, people would look down on her, or Magic tournaments are toxic anyway. But anyway, she would, but people would think she wasn't, she was there with her guy, and she wasn't good, and she wasn't playing, and she would wipe the floor with them, right? So they underestimated her, and she would destroy them. So that tells me that sexism does still exist in the hobby. But I mean, even from the standpoint of looking at characters for board games, guys clad in armor, women, they don't need that armor plate around the stomach area, right? So it's there's a lot of fan service built into still in the board gaming community and industry, and there's still a lot of toxicity there. So I'm not gonna pretend like it doesn't exist. And it is harder for women, so it is a thing, and I want to just recognize that, right? Which is why, and I say all that because I don't know if I can't speak to that saying like, well, guys have more times for hobby than women. Maybe that's true. I've done some of the research, but I haven't done all the research to say if that's a true thing or not.
I think it's important to know that, how do I say this? To be aware of the situation, right? Like in our household, I joke with Kim sometimes because she'll be in the garage doing some woodworking project, tools, manual labor type stuff like that. She does woodworking on the side, and I'll be in the house doing dishes, right? And she'll come in like, "This is how it's supposed to work," just joking about it. But like honestly, I'm very happy she's doing woodworking, right? This is a good thing, right? And acknowledging that, making sure that everyone has time to do their own hobbies, whatever they want to do, whatever
Yeah.
it happens to be.
Yeah.
I don't care what it
Yeah.
is, whatever makes you happy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
And I
so
think
I
that's
don't know. I
kind of
read that and I kind of like that bothered me a little bit. Maybe because I feel like at least in my own life, that doesn't feel like a situation in my household at least.
Right.
But
But
to your point there,
holistically, can you see? Yeah.
yeah,
externally, it's definitely
the
true,
closer
right?
you get the more narrowed in. I mean, like for example, Steve's saying our house is very similar. The Everybody gets their time to kind of do the things they want to, and we all pitch in to do all the different things around the house. There
Right.
isn't really this is that, that is this is the, you know what I mean? It's like and that's where our family is. But I mean, and that it really narrows it down. I mean, we're talking 4 people.
Right.
That's not a population size that you can use to examine this on a whole.
Yeah.
Which yes, this is something that it's beyond me to be able to talk and completely get the right perspective on. But
Mm.
from where my little 4-person individual little area, I mean, we kind of make sure that it's that there's enough for everybody to be able to do what they want and
Yep.
be able to help with all the things they can do.
Yeah. And I think that that's where we can affect, right? When it comes to that stuff, that's where we can affect.
Yeah.
We can do better
Mhm.
by making sure that we are being inclusive. And I know a lot of people in the community want to do that, but there is a side of the community that doesn't. And we need to understand that that's a thing. We can't say, "Oh, that's not a thing." Oh, well, the board game community isn't like that. Every community is like that.
Right. Right.
And what we have to do is try to stamp that out and be better.
And at
Exactly.
least,
So,
if anything, at least bring it to the fore, like to acknowledgement
yeah,
that it's there.
yeah.
Yeah, I know from One Stop Co-op perspective, we were actually seeking someone who would join the community here from the female perspective, right? Just to have that diversity and put other people up higher on the pedestal right now.
Get that
It was
voice out
harder to
there.
find honestly than we expected.
Mhm.
And that says
Um,
something.
there's a lot.
There's a
I
lot,
think
but
that
like
there's
a
a lot.
lot of the people we talked to, they were already doing their own thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Is what it came down
yeah,
to, right?
yeah, yeah.
So
And I've been and for I talked to Steve and Bairnt about this where I struggle because I reach out to so many other minorities in the community and I hear nothing back. And so I'm like, okay, is it my cologne? I brushed my teeth before I sent my email, so it
for
could
me
be
to
my
tell
breath.
you,
Boris, that's my
So,
email. Oh my
so,
gosh, I'm gonna steal that from you, Canje. That was amazing.
but my thing is just more. I reach out. It's not just females. I reach out to all minorities. I heard back from 2. One of them was our family plays games. They were like, "Hey, yes, we want to talk. Let just message us. Let's have a conversation." And I was like, "This is why I subscribe to y'all. Y'all are so awesome because they were so welcoming and awesome." And but a lot of the other ones that I reach out to, I don't hear anything back. And so then I'm like,
yeah,
what do I need to do?
yeah. There's a lot but they're led. So
Yoki.
okay, watch Kenji stuff and we're horrified.
Not talking to that guy.
Okay. But yeah, I think we kind of summarized the whole article at this point. I think
we went.
the main thing is like the thing that bothered me the most, honestly, was just like the mindset, and like looking down at the board game hobby,
I don't think she was looking down at it. I think she just wasn't informed about it.
Oh,
I
that's
think
fair.
that's
fair.
the thing. I don't think she was looking down at it. That's where I was going to defend her towards the end, where I was saying, when you move to a new location and you don't know a lot of people and you want to get in the know and you want to start forming bonds, if someone says, "Hey, we're going to have a board game night," and you don't like board games, don't go. I mean, that's the simplest solution. Well, how do I make friends? Is the board game community the only thing happening in your small town of Pennsylvania? Are they not there? There's this really cool website called meetup.com that
They also have the
that
Hershey factory.
yeah, they also have the Hershey factory, but that you can find groups of every different hobby that you could possibly imagine and go there, right? So there's ample opportunity in our technological world that opens up the door to you finding people engaged in interests that you're engaged in.
Right.
So use that.
So I think we've got
Jesus.
Mike. I had no point did she give anyone the consideration you're giving her now. Yeah, that might be true, Mike. That might be true.
But that's there's the thing, Mike. There's the thing. It's like what we can do, and I'll soapbox it for a second. Here, we've got two avenues to travel here.
Yeah.
We can we can go with the avenue she did and be defensive and be sensitive and respond like that, or we can have a conversation about this stuff and say this is where we can look at the and give feedback, give positive feedback of this is where you probably could have gotten a little bit of that information wrong, right? If someone yells at me and says you're wrong, I'm gonna be like, okay, we're done talking, right? But if someone says, hey, that was kind of wrong, have you considered this? Have you said, did you talk to the person? And I start getting curious and asking questions, then I have a discussion with them.
Yeah.
And I do want to give her that consideration because from her standpoint, and I'll say this, from her standpoint, it took a lot for her to write this article, whether it be for clickbait purposes or she actually felt this way. It took her a lot to write this article. And it was a very bold way of her saying, I didn't have fun. I didn't enjoy this. I don't like this hobby. And that's cool. However, I'm saying that if you're going to write an article about and put it out there in the ether for everyone to see, then prepare for constructive feedback from people who get it, right? And and since you're open to being bold to put this out into the ether, I encourage you to be just as open to the feedback that the positive feedback that you'll receive from this article that says let's have a conversation and a discussion around this so that we can find where the breakdown was and
Agreed.
form some type of communication around that. And that's how I approached it, right? And when I first read this article, I was like, you know what? Hell no. But I then had to check myself, reread it again, and then I started seeing the inconsistencies, the things that could provide feedback, and the ways to go through this stuff. And that's the way that I want to approach it. And that's the way I want people to approach me. If I do something wrong in a board game, tell me I did something wrong, right? But don't say you suck, you are a bad board gamer. Like that doesn't tell me anything. Thank you. Okay, have a good day. But tell me something I don't know. But it's just more. But if you're like, hey, in this rule on this page, or hey, you missed this thing. Oh, thank you. So now I know the next time I play, I won't make that mistake.
Yeah. Yep. No, I agree with you. There was a lot of comments I saw, responses in different forums to this article, and a lot of them were pretty knee-jerk and harsh, I would say. And I think
they were harsh.
They were.
They were.
And I'm with you, Derek. I'm on the same page. I think there are some assumptions that people are making, and some maybe there's more that we glean from this than what appears, and that's why we want to sit down and talk about this. So,
yeah,
cool. Okay. There was another question that popped up off topic of this one from Jan. What's ever been playing?
League of Dungeoneers.
I am so waiting for you to put out that video. I watched your character creation video and I was pumped.
It's done. I'm waiting for One Stop to allow me to post it.
Send it to me, please. I want to preview it. I've been so excited about it.
The first mission is done. I am now recording the settlement phase. And then after that, I'm going to do the first dungeon dive. And then that's probably going over to most of that will be on One Stop. And then the rest of it's going to be over on my channel. So you'll be able to see it there. Okay. That's that. And of course, I'm doing there you go. I jumped on that because I have been working on this game for almost a month. This is out of control. And even then, I know this isn't what we're talking about, but so I feel bad because I've had a lot of questions when it comes to the rules of this game, and I've reached out to the creator twice for rules. Hey, I got a question about this. Hey, I got a question about this. Nothing. Like radio silence. And I'm like, I've been said hey, this is Bairnt from the One Stop Co-op Shop. I'm doing your game, League of Dungeoneers. I have a couple questions. I just want clarification. And I asked the questions. I even got that email back that says, "Hey, do you want to follow up with this?" And I'm like, "Why? I'm not going to get anything apparently."
Oof, oof.
So we'll see
That's
how many of these rules I get wrong because
yeah, that's not a good showing if the dev is not responding to someone they sent
uh,
a advanced
right.
copy to.
But,
That's
I mean,
not-
but in the defense, I'm enjoying the game a lot. I think it's really cool. I am the only thing I'm worried about is just like everything else, there is this one particularly when it comes to this type of game has the dice can be pretty swingy. The amount of damage you can take is like from 1 to 12, and you might only have 14 hit points. It's like like kind of thing. So, but I mean, it's very similar, but in its vein, it's a very Dungeon Dragon style game. Like where I mean, how many times in Dungeon and Dragons do you get what do you call it? Where it's like, oh, okay, you just got critically hit for 48 points damage. My God,
oh,
down.
you get knocked out. You get
Yeah, it's like,
KO'd.
and
KO'd.
you think there's your character going like, I got 40 hit points. I can take this guy down. Oh, I just got hit for 42 points of damage in one. I guess I'm out.
Yeah.
But and of course, just like in D&D, there's you have 4 game players. You have to have 4 characters, whether
Yeah.
they're PCs or NPCs. So you always have the other ones around that'll eventually get you back up. But anyway, I said a lot. It's probably because I didn't say a lot during the talk.
No, I'm pumped to see that playthrough because I like the character creation video you did.
Oh my gosh, that was so much fun. And it actually makes me feel like these, like just like other games, it's hard because sometimes when you play, like, for example, any that like Sword and Sorcery, let's say, you don't really get like, oh, okay, I got this guy, I got these 2 cards, cool, let's go. Which is fast and easy to get on the table, but I don't have as much invested in this guy. It's like, oh, I'll just try another guy next time because it's, but this one, like, this guy took me 20 minutes to make. His name is like Rock Winterfield. This is going to be awesome. He's going to go in there. He's going to be magical. I'm going to have some priestly spells. It's going to be so good. Oh, he can't. Oh, no. And you got to start again and make another guy. Like, you're actually vested in these people. So it's kind of
That
cool.
sounds cool. Yeah, that sounds cool.
Anyway, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm getting that one up. That's the plan. And I got to do Star Trek too.
Yeah, for me, tomorrow I know I'm playing Spirit Island. It was supposed to be Arkham Horror, but that had to get moved because one of our players couldn't make it. So I'll be doing a tabled non-TTS version of Spirit Island, taking Lightning. Oh, I'm gonna die into a regular play of this game. I'm so gonna screw up rules. I really am. But we'll see how it'll go. We'll see.
I'm so sorry, Canje. I'm 100% win rate on that game.
No, I think we've lost once. Every time I played with Steven, I think we lost once.
I've never lost.
I think we lost once. Yeah.
So that's what I've got. I'm painting Lobotomy 2 characters because I said I'll paint them all before I play it. I don't know why I said that.
Unpaintable game.
So
I think I've had my conversation about unpaintable games, and that's Robin. I've played more than once. I have played twice. I have played Spirit Island twice, and I've won both times.
Yeah, I've basically been playing one game because I'm trying to get to review state. Isoferran Guard. So I am
not jealous. I'm not jealous at all.
We just saw our first boss, so that was cool, and we're very close to wrapping up chapter 2 of the first campaign, and so that's probably gonna happen this weekend. And I'm gonna start putting together the reviews. So it should be out. Well, it's gonna be on the main channel at One Stop, so whenever they slot it in. But I'm guessing next few days we'll get the review created, and then we'll see where it fits in the schedule at that point. But yeah. Review for that coming out soon, and then of course we're going to continue live streaming that. Kind of ramping up to live stream because if you attended the last Marvel United playthrough we did, there were some errors, some fun errors, but I think we're working through those, getting everything back to where it was. So yeah, we're getting there.
Which Marvel United one where there were some errors? Not the Magneto one.
Yeah.
What'd y'all mess up? You won.
No. The game was fine. Talking about the stream itself.
Oh. Okay.
Doesn't do things wrong. Come on, just the stream messes up.
Because like y'all accomplished what I could not, which I tip my hat to you and Kim.
That was a tense game, really tense game. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
This is coming too.
Yeah, Star Trek
Oh, that's
Alliance. I can't wait
cool.
to see that one
I'm
from your
pretty
parents.
excited for that. I really want to do that before League of Dungeoneers, but I knew I'd already started reading the 250-page rule book, so I'm like, better do that one first.
Yeah, I think that's the stuff I have coming up. In May starts the month of roll and write, print and play for me, so I'll be playing a lot of those on the stream. So we'll see how it
I
goes.
see a lot of people playing lots of fun stuff. Crosshaven, Aeon's End Legacy, Century Golem,
Western
Western
Legends,
Legends. So
yeah,
that's a fun one. I do like that one
Radlands.
quite a bit. Radlands, yep, that's a fun one
Yeah,
too.
so good stuff. What are you? You said Isofarian Guard. Is that the only one that you're focusing on presently? You said.
No, Santorini, because we're gonna cover the preview Monday,
Okay.
and also Phantom Epoch, and that to back to the screen. Those are the main ones. Of course, Marvel United, because that just never stops at this point.
Never.
Oh,
What did?
I'm doing Oathsworn Monday and painting Wednesday.
Sweet.
Sweet.
I don't know what I'm painting yet. It's funny because every time I like put it up there, I'm like, okay, and I put like my little logo and be like, live at the painting table, join me, kind of thing. And then like basically an hour before the stream, I'm kind of going, what am I going to paint tonight? I've got so much to paint, but I don't know what to paint. And finally, I just pick something like, okay, we're painting this, and then I change the picture of the logo into what we painted. Like after I've done.
So
You think I'd have a set where I'd know what I'm painting? I put the picture up there.
I think there's a new possibility for content, Derek, if you're interested, because you mentioned this in the past, or Bairnt, I know you do this too. But
No, I don't.
Kim and I recently watched Vox Machina, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
like the animated version of Critical
It's
Role.
amazing.
Y'all want to do D&D?
Kim is obsessed with D&D lately. She's like, "Oh, what character should I make? What would this do? What's the backstory?" And she's like,
I will be more than happy to DM that game.
Fantastic. I'm playing.
I think it'd be fun to do a few D&D sessions on streamed.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Do y'all want to go? Oh, we'll work out the because I have.
My D&D group will not allow me to go live. Ever.
Oh, because they don't want to. Gotcha. Yeah.
Not that I don't have the cameras and the microphones and everything to do it.
Yeah, I can. I'm actually Brian, who has a YouTube channel called the Cave of Creation, as well as a Discord channel where he introduced me to this lovely VTT called Foundry, and I love it. And oh yeah, we can do that, and I can start y'all out very light and easy, and sure.
That might be fun.
DPKS right away. That'll be the best way to introduce somebody to the game.
Let's ask the chat. So would y'all like to see?
I'm already seeing comments here. I'm saying yes, I would watch that. Me too. So yeah.
D&D, if you stream D&D, it's kind of like the natural. It's like if
Robin wants to play too.
If you'd play it, they will come. Oh, Robin's gonna join too. My wife's gonna play too.
Oh, she'll play too. Okay.
Oh yeah,
we got a party.
All right. We got a full party then. We're good.
Party. I haven't got my Dungeon Dragon shirt on today. It's like I knew this was coming. Didn't know.
Okay. All right. I've already got a scenario set.
Sweet.
Cool. Yep. Sure.
We all want to play, not see. Yes.
Yeah. 412 people.
Roll for initiative.
Roll for initiative.
Yeah. Okay. Let's set it up. I'll DM it. Sure.
Cool.
Sweet.
Cool. Okay. Well, on that surprise to Derek there. By the way.
hey, Derek, you're D&D'ing. Okay.
Well, you mentioned it in the past, so I felt like it wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
If anybody can create assets for this thing, it's going to be you two.
I got it. I got tons of D&D stuff. You don't even have to. You just have to build your character and send me an image from somewhere on the internet of what, or do a AI generation of what your character looks like. That's all I need.
Oh, there's a program you can use. It's called like createyourdude.com or something. I don't know what like isn't there like some like AI?
I have an AI generator called Midjourney.
Like, don't they have those that can like?
Yeah,
I
have Midjourney, so I could use that.
This is the race and this is the character concept, and they'll draw you a picture of it.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll work it out. And sure.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun.
Oh, it's gonna be grand.
Let's put
I want Bairnt to just always say his catchphrase is, "I've got a plan."
That's right. That's right.
Sorry. Actually, Robin, I can come up with me. I want to play a fairy. The creation site said choose anything but barbarian, so naturally I made a barbarian.
That's right.
That's amazing.
Pretty awesome.
That's amazing, Robin. Awesome. Cool.
Oh,
All right.
awesome.
Well, I think that's going to end it for today. I think we're kind of mentioned what's coming up on our channel, so we won't cover that again. So,
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm doing League of Dungeoneers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kidding. Yes, we've all.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you at the next stop.
Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.
Take care.